So this is my original setup. As you can see, I've made the improvement. So my original setup wasn't covered, and you can see the switches get exposed to the dirt and that. So my improvement on that is to have the cover on it, and also there's a chance birds could jump up here and accidentally hit a switch. So that's why we've covered it up. Now you can see here, this is my batteries. It's a 120 amp hour lead acid battery, and it sits in here. We've got our fence charger there, and I just mount my control box here. So all the wires in the Eggmobile are all running back to this point here. Now, little hack I was saying about the battery. I've actually, as you can see, there's actually two little Wago connectors here and two wires connected to it in here, as well as the wires that connect to the battery. And what that is that's actually the wire coming from the solar panel. So I've brought the solar panel right down to here. I've put a break in it, and then I've run it up into the box. And what that means is, when I go to take out the battery, I see that little switch and I say, oh yes, I got to disconnect the solar panel first. So I disconnect that. As you can see there now, I have it disconnected, the battery's out, and stops me from making that mistake of leaving the solar panel plugged in with no battery. A little thing about the Energizer, I recommend, if you're putting your Energizer in the Eggmobile like this here, you've got a lot of volts coming out of there. It's low ampage, but a lot of volts. And to get a cable to run out that the volts isn't going to jump through, you're either going to have to pay a lot of money for a well insulated cable, or what I like to do is I just get it away from the Eggmobile as quick as possible, the cable. So the chargers here, my fence cable drops straight down to the ground there and then off to my cable. If you tack it onto your Eggmobile and it's running past the sheeting, there's a strong possibility, if you've used a light wire with not a very high insulation value, the spark will jump across to the Eggmobile, and then you're going to actually make your Eggmobile live, and your fence is not going to be very hot. So that's my trick to that. But if you run it straight off, so here's my charger, the spark line just goes straight down and it's gone away from my Eggmobile, and I have no issues there. And the same with the earthen rod, it just goes straight down and then into my earthen rod. And this is our Energizer and our battery in place, and the little switch I was telling you about. So this is the battery housing, and this is the switch I was telling you. So this is the wire coming from the solar panel, and I just disconnect these two guys. If I've got my battery connected, this is my leads for my battery, which run to my control box. And once I have my battery hooked up, then I can hook back in my solar panel, and it's all good. This is my Energizer sitting in here, and the trick with the Energizers is run them straight down. If we take a quick look outside how I do that, I've just got my cable on here for when I'm moving, and then it runs out. I use these guys just to run it out to my fence, and that's my earthen rod. So the trick is, my Energizer's right here, and my cables are just running out here, so there's very little for them to be in contact with for the spark to jump through the cable. Now if we put our battery back in, and we close up this here. Now, to mounting the nest boxes, I've got a few questions about this. So my nest boxes are actually balanced on this beam here. So this is a 2-inch. So this is 2x4, and it's actually, I wasn't high enough. When I would tilt forward, this would hit the ground. So I put another 2x2 in there. So this is 2 inches wide. So it's basically sitting on the square the whole way along. And then I've got end plates in to stop it moving off. But these nest boxes are quite heavy. And then our arms pivot it. So it's resting on this here, and it can pivot forward and back, and our arms are just mounted. So to set these rams up, I level the whole Eggmobile as best I can. So park it in a level spot, and then when it's level, I level the nest boxes, and then I set this up to be 100mm extended, because the ram is 200. So if I extend it by 100, that means it can go back 100, it can go forward 100. So just to overall level the Eggmobile and then set that up so it's got travel everywhere. I'm sorry about the stuff in here. When you're a small farm like this starting out, storage space is quite hard to come by, so during the winter I actually use my Eggmobiles as storage as well. So that's the nest box tilting, and then I like to create paneling so birds can't get in there. So this paneling is actually fixed to the egg mobile, so it's free here. The nest boxes can move. The same up here, and the same on these guys here. They're actually hinged along the top there, so the nest box can come forward and back. And what that does is it stops birds being able to get in behind the nest boxes and get trapped, or they would all pile in there if they were allowed. And again, there's one of these completely on the other side. Also, at the connections between the nest box units, so I've put, you can see in here, I've just put a little bracket which stops the nest boxes sliding forward. But now this can't be too solid because this is actually pivoting here, so it's just a light aluminium bracket, so the aluminium can bend forward and can rock with it. Basically, it's not bending per se, it's rocking. And all my nest boxes are bolted together. The 3 modules are bolted together. I've got 2 bolts in the top and 2 bolts in the bottom down here. For the door, I mount my actuator, as you might have seen in the introduction video, right back up there, and then I tie it on with a rope, because what that does is it doesn't matter how deep the door needs to drop down. If the ground's close or if it's far away, I'm not going to break anything by forcing the door down with the actuator. The rope will just become slack. As you can see, I've just got, so for this end over here, I've got my rope tied onto the door down here. It goes up to the pulley, comes across to a second pulley and up to my actuator. And the first one just has 1 pulley. Now, it's important when you're mounting this actuator that you don't have the door closed and the actuator still wants to close a couple inches and it pulls and pulls and pulls. You will really shorten the life of the actuator. So you want the actuator to be closed completely in it. It's cut off when the door is just closed. So try not to overstrain the actuator, and it should last a good bit longer. This is my second egg mobile, and it actually still needs to get cleaned out. I'm actually going to do a job on the axles in probably a couple of weeks, but I've actually taken the panel out of this one and I put it in my polytunnel. So for my winter usage, I just take the panel straight out and put it into my tunnel. So my tunnel is fully automated with the exact same kit. I've taken the actuators, I've taken an actuator off the door, off this egg mobile, but you can see here all the wires are running back to behind the panel. And when you're running these wires back, it's a good idea to label them so you know what's what. So everything from the solar panel, my solar panels are right up in the front corner, that runs back and it runs down to this box and then up. Both these actuators running together, and what we're going to look at now is the nest box. So there's about a 50mm gap between my modular nest boxes. There are 3 modulars which are 1.2 meters long, and I just tie the nest boxes between in these gaps. The ropes can travel. So now I've got all my nest perches or closers tied together. I just need to lift the one. So one actuator does me here. It's tied on here, and if we lift this up, you can see it's mounted to the nest boxes. So even if I tilt the nest boxes, this whole mechanism is going to tilt with it. And that's how we open and close our nest boxes. Now, I find it's a good trick when my nest boxes are closed. Another little hack what I do is, when my nest boxes are closed, I actually leave enough room so that if there's birds closed in the nest box, they can climb out here, and the birds kind of train themselves. If they got closed in, they know to walk along to the end and they can squeeze themselves out this gap here, but it's very difficult for them to jump in and get in there. So that's another little trick in case if you're afraid of closing birds in the nest box. And the last thing now is the lights, and I actually position my lights right here under the roost. So you can see here's one here. If you follow, the lead runs back up, so I've got one main line runs along there, and then I run down my roost to each light. So I've got 3 of them here. I've got one here, one there, and one up there. And the beauty of this is the lights are down here, so they can come on in the evening, and it's dark up on top of the roost, so the birds, it really helps the birds want to get up above the light. And then in the morning too, because in the winter time I still have my eggs out in pasture in October, November. It gets still dark till almost 8 o'clock in the morning. So the nest boxes are open and the birds want to lay, but they can't see them. So I can have these come on in the morning. The birds are up above them, so it doesn't really bother them. But any bird that wants to lay, the nest boxes are lit up. And it also, they're right there. So if I'm collecting eggs, I turn on the lights so that I can pretty much quality check all my eggs here in the egg mobile, which is very time efficient. So I'm not taking or I'm reducing the workload in the egg factory later on. So that's my lights, and as you can see, the wire comes down, goes in one end, and the other end just sits there free. This is my solar panel, and it's a 120 watt solar panel, I believe. And I can just check the specs in the back. Yeah, it's 120 amps specs there. These are the waterproof connectors I've been telling you about. So this is the wire from my egg mobile, which runs all the way back to my control box, and these little waterproof connectors are great, and it means you can easily take it off as well. Now I'm fortunate that my tree lanes run northeast to southwest, so I can pretty much get sun no matter what way I'm orientated. I can pivot this, I can have get away with just having basically two options. I can have it flat like that, or I can raise it up, and that gets me solar energy pretty much all year round, any time of the day, no matter what orientation I am in my paddocks. Now you mightn't be that lucky. It might be a case that if you just mount it here, at some point it just will not get sun because all the sun is on the back of the egg mobile. You're either going to have to come up with a very clever mounting point maybe somewhere else in the egg mobile, or the other option is to put two solar panels on. You could put a second one on the back, or you could also have it that you have two mounting points, so you have another wire at the back and you just move this. It's up to you how much work you want to do or how clever you can be with it, but it's really simple. This works for me perfect, and the big panel really works here in Ireland. And that concludes our training, and I really hope that this training benefits you and your farm. It makes your work a lot more easeful and more efficient, saving you a lot of time and money and making it a bit more pleasurable, because I know as well as anyone, having to truck back to the egg mobile every night isn't the best of activities. So if you can train your birds, this system can really make it a very joyous enterprise to run. So thank you very much for supporting Heather Hill Farm, and the best of luck with your farm.